words, County Manager, board members, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for the invitation to be here today, and I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to launch the map and guide to the Copper Coast and the Copper Coast animated film. I'm no stranger to Waterford. Waterford is a county I know very well, with my mother being from the Garvan, but it's actually one of the parts of the county I've never been to before, but I do promise to come back in the daylight next time and hopefully have a chance to see the coast and to see the beaches and the coastline, which I'm told is really spectacular. The map and the animated film will be very useful to visitors. What it will do is allow them to have a further understanding of the rich history and legacy of metal mining in this area. The map builds on earlier work which saw on Taoiseach here in November opening the Geopark. And I have to say, I really think this is a fabulous building. It's really been beautifully restored, and I just think it's a really impressive and really tastefully done, especially given the fact that it is an old church. So congratulations on that. I know the time the Taoiseach paid tribute to the community effort that was put into the Geopark project and continues to be put into it, and I really want to repeat and echo that praise and the government's appreciation for it. Indeed, in the past year we've seen a lot of communities come together, particularly to contribute to the gathering. As you know, the primary goal of the gathering was to generate additional visitor numbers and tourists to Ireland and increase revenue and employment. But it wasn't ever just about that. It was also about helping to restore community pride and giving communities that extra reason they needed to resurrect an old festival or put on a new event. And that was done very strongly around the country, and I think that worked very well. We don't have the final figures yet, we'll have them next week, but it does look like there was about a 7% increase in the number of visitors coming to Ireland last year, which is considerable. And we also saw the first increase in a very long time in the number of people taking a holiday at home, which I suppose reflects in some ways the early stages of economic recovery, but also is probably aided by the good weather that we had during the summer, and hopefully that will be the same again this year. But probably more important than all of that, there are 15,000 more people working in the hospitality sector than there were this time 2 years ago. And jobs are really important, as we all know, at this time. The government supports tourism, I think, for a number of reasons. First of all, it is an export industry. It's an unusual export industry. It's not like pharmaceuticals or food and drink where the products leave the country. What happens is people come in from outside and spend their money in Ireland. It's also an area that's growing. Tourism internationally grows about 3% a year. So over 25 years, we'd expect the number of tourists in the world, particularly from Asia, to double. So there's opportunities for us there. As I mentioned earlier, it supports about 180,000 jobs. But they're jobs at all levels. They're jobs for people who have basic skills, but they're also jobs for people who have very high qualifications. And they tend to be jobs in small and medium enterprises, small businesses that are generally owned by Irish people. And what that does mean is that if there are profits, the profits then tend to stay in Ireland and tend to be reinvested in Ireland, which I think is very important. So we roughly tried to do three things to boost tourism. The first was to help the industry to become more competitive, because a couple of years ago Ireland had the perception of being a very expensive place to visit. British visitors still find it expensive for food and drink. Pretty much everyone else finds it to be very good value, particularly when it comes to accommodation and attractions. And the key thing there was the 9% VAT rate and the fuel rebate for the tour operators and bus operators, and a few other concessions that were brought in. The second thing was to try and increase air access. We're an island, as you all know, and people can only come here by plane. They can come by ferry as well, but by and large they can only come by plane. What we tried to do there was separate Shannon to create some competition among the state airports, and also to abolish the travel tax and a few other things, and that's really paid off. We saw particularly the American numbers this year, and that will continue next year. Just from Canada alone, there's 80% more seats. From America, there's about 10% more next year. So that's very encouraging. We also tried to give people new reasons to visit, and that was things like the gathering, but also the capital programme, investments in attractions, many of which are in Waterford City, investments in greenways and other things like that, and that will continue. Turning now to the map and guide. The map and guide which I'm launching here today as you know, has been part funded by the European Regional Development Fund to the Ireland-Wales programme. The Ireland-Wales programme, as you'll be aware, aims to strengthen cooperation between Ireland and Wales in areas such as employment, innovation, climate change and sustainable development, many of which are very relevant to this project. And I think at a time of very scarce resources, we've been very fortunate to be able to attract and avail of European funds, like LEADER for example, which was very important in building this centre. Notwithstanding the pressure on the government and the budget cutbacks that we've had to endure, we've continued to make a significant investment in tourism, particularly in the South East. The largest single investment in recent years was the development of the Viking Triangle in Waterford City with Reginald's Tower and the Delicious Palace Museum and the Choristers Hall. There's about a €9 million investment in that, and has really made Waterford City a much more interesting place to visit. We hope to build on that in the future. I'm very enthusiastic about the Waterford Stud Garden Greenway project on the old railway line. I certainly can't promise funding for it or anything like that at this stage, but it is something that I envisage being done in the future. And we're also very keen to open Mount Congaree up to the public and bring all those attractions that exist here in Waterford together, so the people who do visit the South East, whether they're going to Kilkenny or whether they're going to Waterford City, have other things to do around the place and reasons to go out into the county as well. One of the things you're probably hearing a lot about at the moment, or at least I hope you are, is the Wild Atlantic Way, which is being developed at the moment, and it's the longest coastal driving route in the world, running from the north of Donegal along the west coast to Cork, picking up about 150 discovery points along the way. You know, things like the National Park in Killarney, things like the Cliffs of Moher, Slieve, so many other places. Fáilte Ireland is now working on doing something similar, running from the southeast, probably starting in Cork with military attractions like Spike Island, running through into Waterford and picking up the Viking history here in particular, the medieval history down in Kilkenny, and then into Dublin and there. And it's going to be probably we haven't put a name on it yet, but it's some sort of heritage route for the south east. And I think again the Geopark could fit in with that extremely well. So I think really one final thing I should mention is one thing we have identified in the research that we do on tourism, that there are, particularly in the British market, and British visitors are very important to the South East, there are two groups of people who seem to be most interested in coming to Ireland. And they're the social energisers, often younger people who are looking to do adventure sports, exciting things, maybe a city break, something like that. And another group who are called the culturally curious. I really hate these marketing terms, but they do make sense when you think about them. And there are people mostly in their 40s, 50s and 60s whose kids have now grown up and they're starting to take a different type of holiday again, free from their kids. And what they want to do is explore places for themselves and explore cities and towns and explore rural areas and see that for themselves. And I think particularly the whole package now that's offered in Waterford is very appealing to that kind of visitor, and I think there are very strong opportunities there. So finally, I just want to thank Joe for his invitation to be here to launch the map, the guide and the animated film. I'm very confident that 2014 is going to be a very good year for tourism, and I'm very supportive of the fact that you're going to make a contribution to that with everything that's done here. So I think that leaves you with just one final thing to do, which is to officially declare the map and guide officially launched. Thank you very much.
Mentioned with a copy of the map, a copy of the guide is in your pack. You'll be taking it around with you, but you might find it somewhere prominent to display the benefits of the copper coast in Dublin.